It'll just say we're live like this. Hi everyone. Very,
Hello.
very happy to be live with Marion. One of my favourite crime authors. Do you want to start us off with an intro to you and your books?
Yeah, I'm Marion Todd. I live in Scotland, near the lovely River Tay, near St Andrews, and I write a crime fiction series with a female detective called Claire Mackay. She's a detective inspector. And the 10th book in the series has just been published. To get a copy, and it's called Watch Them Fall. And that came out last Thursday on the 12th of March. And I have just finished writing book 11 and sent that off to our publisher, but that won't be out until next year.
Is because big things happen in this book, don't they?
They do.
Are you kind of winding towards an end of the series, do you think? Or is it just you needed a big thing to happen?
No, I'm not planning to end it. And even if I stopped writing Claire, I don't think I would kill her off, because I sort of work on the assumption that, never say never, you might want to go back. I don't want to have a Bobby Ewing moment where she comes out of the shower and it was all been a dream. I felt that in some respects the things had got a bit cozy and a bit settled in this book, and I always like to try and move at least some of the characters, some of the core characters on with every book. So I'll usually do something to someone in a book. It might be a good thing, it might be a bad thing, and I just felt with this book it was time to maybe do something.
That was well done. You very
Well dodged.
You very avoided a spoiler. Daniel says hello.
Oh, hi Daniel. Hello. Thanks for tuning in.
So does Sarah. She says it's
hi Sarah.
Good news on book 11.
Oh, good, excellent. Yeah, I hope it's okay. We'll see. I've not had any editorial feedback yet, but I'm sure they always have such good ideas. And I look at it and I think, oh, I don't want to do that. That sounds like a lot of work. But it does always make the book better. They're so good at what they do, editors.
You must have quite a contingent of fans now. With book 10, do you have like a little group of, I don't know what we would call ourselves, fans of Marion Todd?
I don't know.
You need like a Swifties or something like that. You need a name for the fans.
Oh, for goodness sake. I love that idea. I don't know what you'd call them, the marionettes. I'm not conscious of having lots of but people do say to me that they're looking forward to the next book, and they'll contact me to say that they've enjoyed it if they have. Sometimes I get told that they didn't enjoy it, and you think, no, okay, sorry about that. But yeah, people are lovely. It does. I've been so busy this past 6 months. I have tried to keep up on social media, but I have fallen behind a bit. But people are lovely and do contact me, and generally speaking, say nice things about the books. Sometimes get the odd one who says, I wish you wouldn't do that. That really annoys me. And I think, well, I can't please everyone.
Well, we are 10 books into the series.
We are,
and
yeah.
I think I've read all but one of them.
Wow, that's dedication.
They've all been fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you.
What amazes me is how you come up with a different kind of really clever plot each time. Like this one's brilliant. It opens with like a burglary that isn't a burglary. That's not giving away a spoiler, is it? That's like
no, that's not a spoiler at all.
It opens with a burglary that's not really a burglary, like nothing's gone missing.
So plots come to me in bits and pieces. I do plot before I start to write, just because that, it helps me sleep at night. I could not do the Ian Rankin thing, which is where you think of a hook and then off you go and see what happens. I'd be so anxious. I need to know which way I'm shooting. And I also think that it helps with editing, with kind of the rewriting that is inevitable when you finish a book. You realize that maybe not everything is quite as it should be, and you have to go back and backfill and change. And by planning the books, I avoid a lot of painful editing. Not all of it, but you do avoid some of it. So the plot, I'll usually start with an idea. And in this book, I'm not going to make a spoiler, but the burglary came before the murder. Because two things happen quite early on in the book. A body is discovered in the harbour, and they don't know initially if the person was killed or if they just stumbled in when they were drunk. And there's a burglary where Claire is made to turn up by her superintendent because she thinks there's other things at play and they need to be seen to be taking it seriously. But when they get there, it turns out that nothing has been taken. And the truth behind the burglary that emerges later on in the book was the very first idea that came to me. And I thought, right, how can I winkle this into a book plot? And that was the kind of start. And then I take that and work away at it and think how it might develop. And as I've said before, I plan on PowerPoint, so I'll have a slide for every scene, and I'll just kind of think, right, what might happen next? I don't know what happens next, but I maybe know what happens in the middle. So I'll create that slide, and gradually I fill in the gaps, and a cohesive plot begins to emerge. And sometimes I'll realize that, oh no, that doesn't work. So I will sort of drag a slide around to a different position. I might need to have somebody die earlier or later, or have the police find something at a different time. And so the slides will get rejigged. And the plot will sometimes change as I write. I have my core, I have my basic plot, and I know almost everything that's going to happen in the book. But things do come up, which makes it fun. It means that it's not tedious. People have said to me, people who don't plan, that they wouldn't like to plan because they think they would be bored writing the book. I think I've got the best of both worlds, because I've got the security of knowing that there is an end point, that this does all work out. And I also have the fun of unexpected things happening.
I like that unexpected things still happen. That's good.
Me too, because it makes it fun. And you suddenly think, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that was going to happen. And of course, then you have to think, how do I fit that in so that it doesn't knock everything else out? And sometimes it does. But it's nice when I've started out with a plot that I think is enough, and then something else comes up and I think, oh, that's going to make it a bit richer. Hopefully, that's the plan.
It definitely makes it a bit richer. You've got a whole arc of the plot that is nothing to do with anything that's happening in the crimes, where Benji's got some people looking after him.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel like there's a story to come out about them.
Well, I decided. Sorry, I'm just going to have a quick drink. Excuse me. I decided that I needed to shake things up for Claire and Al. And at the end of the last book, he was offered a job working away from home from Monday till Thursday, working from home on Friday. And Claire was kind of offered his job. And I suppose it's a bit of a spoiler to say that she didn't take it. But, there wouldn't be another St. Andrews crime novel if she had taken it. So she's back at home now, half feeling that maybe she's missed her chance. Maybe she should have done it, taken his job. It would have been a little bit more money. It's not a huge amount more. She wouldn't have had all the hassle that she has when there's a crime. And as the book goes on, she starts questioning that decision. And in the meantime, because Al, who had been working 9 to 5, was not able to be there every night for Benji, then her dog walker, Moira, has become Benji care. So Benji gets dropped off at Moira in the morning and picked up when Claire's on her way home. And I think there's at least one night when the investigation goes on late, when Moira agrees to. Moira's a darling. I wish I had a Moira. She agrees to keep Benji so that Claire doesn't have to worry about coming home when the investigation is really ramping up. So that's kind of changed the dynamics, and Claire's questioning herself: has she done the right thing? And she's missing Al. He's been promoted now, so the people who were annoyed by me calling him the DCI in the book are no longer going to be annoyed, because I couldn't have her calling him the superintendent. She called him, or she thought of him as the DCI because he had been a DCI to her before they were in a relationship. So I've had to stop doing that now. I've called, because he's superintendent, and he got a promotion with his new job. So yes, it throws a bit of a spanner into Claire's works. And when she's trying to investigate the two crimes that happen at the start, then, it's extra pressure.
Is extra pressure on the author as well when you introduce like an animal into the books, isn't it? Because you've always got to make sure that they're well looked after.
Yes, and I've been told off for not looking after Benji. I have had emails saying, Claire is, she can't leave Benji all this time. And I was kind of saying, well, Moira comes in and walks him, and she comes in twice a day, and Claire's there, or, Al's there in the morning, and Claire's, there at night, or Al's there. So coming up with Benji care was the ideal solution. So that's what we're doing at the moment. We'll see how long it lasts.
There's some questions on the stream. Sarah says, would you consider a collaboration with another author of a long-running series?
That's an interesting question, Sarah. Thank you. Probably not, because I'm quite controlling over my plots. I'm quite, someone might say to you, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And immediately I think, don't tell me what to do. But with a book, I need to work this out myself, because these characters are in my head and they're very real to me. I can see them, I can hear them, I imagine them walking about. I can see Chris ambling in. Think I'll just have a coffee before I do any work, and they're all real to me. So to let someone else in who doesn't know what's in my head, I think would be really difficult. I think the only thing I might do is perhaps collaborate with an expert, or a kind of non-fiction person rather than another fiction author. So let's say somebody who worked in a prison, or someone who was a forensic expert or something like that. That might be fun. But even then, how do you divide the labor? How do you say, who's done the most? That would be a tricky one. And I think I'm too much of a control freak to do that. But never say never.
Yeah, I'm always interested in how people do that and blend it so well. You think about people like Ambrose Perry.
Yes. Well, they're married,
I know, but that must make it even harder. I'm not sure I could do something like
so?
that with my husband. Like, I love him, but I don't know if we could work together that way. You know what I mean?
I think the thing with a spouse or a partner is that at least you can tell them what you think. You can be honest with them. If you're going to be honest with anybody, it's going to be the person you live with. You say, that's rubbish, don't say that. Whereas if it was another author, I might not want to kind of say anything critical. The more I think about it, the more I think absolutely not.
And Daniel says, do you ever find Claire working against you? E.g. refusing to do what you want her to do?
Oh, Claire. No, I think I've pretty much got Claire under control. I think there are times when Claire does something inadvisable. I mean, I never do the sort of cliche of sending her into a dangerous situation without backup. I don't do that. But there was one book where she smacked somebody in the mouth. I loved that. I so enjoyed doing that. So I guess rather than Claire working against me, she's more of an outlet for the things that I would kind of want to do or wish I could do, but either don't dare or can't. So that's why I made her taller than me. She's got marginally better hair than me, not by much, but slightly better. She's faster than me. She runs fast, and she's quite confident. And I'm not really. I'm quite a oh gosh, what's the word? I'm not very confident when I'm talking to people if they want to talk to me or if they're just humouring me because oh yeah, we better be nice to Marion. So whereas Claire doesn't have those confidence issues. So I I don't think she works against me. I think she's an outlet for all my neuroses.
We like talking to you here. We're not just humouring you. In the
That's
UK,
very kind. Thank you.
we're all a big fan.
It is. It's a real worry though because you sort of think when you meet people, you think, what do they really think? And this is part of the problem with writing books because you're exposing part of yourself. You're putting the story out there and saying, this is my creative thing. This has come from inside me, and if you don't like it, I'm going to actually be crushed. It's like getting a bad review, which I'm okay with now. I'm better at it. But the first I remember my first bad review, and I remember emailing my agent to say I can't do this. I absolutely can't. She's like, man up, Marion. You'll be fine. Look at all the good reviews. So there is always this insecurity, wondering if people actually like the books, and that sort of bleeds on to do people actually like me, or are they just being nice to me because they feel sorry for me? A psychiatrist would have a field day with me.
Also, I mean, every book in the world has got a 1-star review.
Every book in the world has, yeah, they do. That's what I say to anybody who's had a bad review. Go and find a really famous writer and look at their 1-stars reviews, and because we all get them, and you just have to. It's just part of it. People will sometimes be quite brutal and quite blunt about what they don't like, and you just have to say, oh well, never mind. Maybe you'll like the next one.
You explore like a theme in this book that seems to come up in others about like towns like St Andrews that are quite popular, sort of pricing people out of the housing market. If you know what I mean, it doesn't. I don't think it's a thing really where I live because it's a big city, and
it's a real.
It is a problem in like a lot of places.
Yeah. So St Andrews is probably. I think it used to have the most expensive street in Scotland. I think it's lost that title now to Edinburgh, but the property prices are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. You could, travel 10, 20 miles and knock 200,000 off the price of a house. And I'm so angry for the locals because if you grow up in the town and you want to stay there, you haven't got a chance of buying a house, not a hope. There are people with deep pockets that buy the properties up and they let them out for holiday lets or they let them to students because there is a huge problem with student accommodation. Again, I feel sorry for the students because some of them are having to live in other towns and travel into the university. And that's not why you go someplace like St Andrews. You go there to be immersed in the town. And it's the same further down the coast on an area of Fife called the East Neuk, which is a kind of little string of gorgeous fishing villages with orange pan tile roofs and harbours with tiny little fishing boats bobbing around in them, and just lovely cafes and fish and chip shops and trips out to an island, the Isle of May, that's a bird reserve. And it's just a lovely, lovely part of the country. And people who do not have an awful lot of money cannot afford to live there. I suppose it's a bit like London. And when I was thinking about this book, I thought, right, let's do housing, which sounds fascinating, but I did want to tackle the question of high-end housing, when what they actually need is affordable housing, in common with many, many places. But St Andrews is just bonkersly expensive compared to 10 miles around. So that's why that has gone into the book. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm getting out my own sort of things that annoy me, and things that I want to shine a light on. I'm using the books to do that.
It's insane how like geographic it is, isn't it? Like we met up with my nieces recently, and they live in the south. And like what they would pay for rent when they were like up here, they were like the same kind of houses. It's like
And how can you say
a third of the
affordability?
price. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's absolutely. It's. I feel so sorry for the current generation who are. I bought my first house when I was 22. No, 21. Um, and there's no way. My children are in their 30s and they still can't afford houses. So yeah, it's really, really difficult. You're paying these high rents, and you haven't got enough left over to save for a deposit. Because again, in my day, when I was buying houses, you got 100% mortgage. Or even for one house, we got 105% mortgage because we borrowed extra to do the house up because it was a bit of a wreck. And house prices were rising so fast at the time that there was no question that we weren't going to increase the value. So our generation were incredibly lucky. I feel very sorry for my children's generation.
To lighten things up, Sarah said, "What's your favourite drink and snack whilst writing?" This is your fault because you make things about biscuits.
Yeah, oh gosh. So I'm trying very hard not to. Um, it depends. Usually it's a big pot of tea. They do say write drunk and edit sober, but I tend not to drink too much. And because I'm typing on a keyboard, I'm often not eating, but it's usually tea and biscuits. Um, Marks and Spencer's biscuits, usually, because I think they're pretty nice. Um, Sometimes raspberries, actually. I've got some raspberries just now, which are just delicious. So things like that, or oranges as well. But biscuits, I love biscuits.
Yeah, we've discussed this before. Was it you who I saw recently put a thing about like words that you'd like look for words that come up quite often in your books so you don't overuse them?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So everybody who writes have their pet words that they use too many times, and expressions and things like that. And I had an email from someone saying, please, I beg of you, for the love of God, stop saying Claire creased her brow. Uh, and that is on my list, and I try my hardest. So when I've written a book, the first thing I do is I go through it and check for my overused words. And it's things that I might use instead of a dialogue, dialogue tags instead of said. I might use smiled, shrugged, turned, nodded, shook, um, paused, all of those things. And I've got 70 odd of them. So it's pretty tedious because, you put it into a search engine and you see you've got 120 of them. And you think, oh. So you have to go through them. And that can take me about a week. But I think it's worth doing because I don't want to get too many of the emails that say, stop saying this. And sometimes you'll have, I'll find that I've said, Claire shook her head. And then literally 2 lines later, Claire shook her head. So it's quite good for spotting things like that. And it's good, it's a nice stage to be at, but it can be tedious. The one that I'm worst at is the word that. There was one book I had about 530 of them. And sometimes it's needed. Sometimes, it's necessary, but a lot of the time it's just a filler word. So it has to come out. But yeah, I quite like that bit. I usually start with the big ones. I always start with that. and just and so and now and then, all of these words, and I check them all. So if something slips through in a book and it does annoy you, I'm very sorry. I try my best.
I read your post about it and I was like, that's really interesting. You don't think of authors
Hmm.
doing that. You
Oh,
think
yes,
you just magically like not making those mistakes to begin with. You know what I mean? Or not that
yeah.
they're a mistake, but that you kind of are automatically thinking of all the different words.
So what I tend to do is, unless it's a particular expression, if it's something like so one of the ones on my list, the only one that's come to mind at the moment is yada yada, because Claire or Chris might be saying something and saying, do this, do that, and yada yada, or something like that. I would only have that once in a book, because otherwise, you wouldn't say that very often. But if it's words like smiled instead of said, then I try to limit it to one a page. And if it's a sort of conversation, or if it's an interview, it's really hard because you've got a lot of dialogue, pages of dialogue, and coming up with other ways of saying Claire said. Sometimes some people say you shouldn't do anything other than said. I do like to mix it up a bit. Um, and it's only when I read it out loud to myself that I know if I've got the balance right between said and smiled and shrugged and shook and turned and all the rest of it. Excuse me.
Daniel says, what are you working on next?
What I'm working on next, I have just sent the Claire 11 in, and I have not announced yet, but I'm working on another series, and I've written the first, and I've got quite extensive edits for that, and I've been putting it off. So the next job will be to have a look at those edits to try and make, thank you, try and make because starting a new series after you've written 11 Claire's is so difficult, because I'm trying not to make it Claire Mark II, trying to make it a bit different. And I'm also trying to get to know the characters. And without a doubt, I have got to know Claire and Chris and all the rest of them as I've gone through the series. I've got to know them better. So I'm trying to do this very quickly to get to know new people. And it's quite tricky. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I'm not it's quite difficult.
But wonderfully exciting news for your fans.
Thank you. Well, I mean, hopefully, the plan, I think, is for the first book to come out. It keeps changing, but I think it's going to be May next year, I think. So there's nothing has really been announced yet, but I can sort of talk about it in vague terms. But so watch the space.
So, in vague terms, would it also be crime?
Yes. It's another detective series, but set in a different part of Scotland, and with a different character, obviously. But I have spoken to editors about the possibility of having maybe a vague link between the two series. Maybe one character who wanders in and out of the both series. But at the moment, I don't know who that would be. But yeah, crime.
Cool. Is that's so I'm just beyond excited about the idea of.
Oh, calm down! It's a year and a bit away.
I know you've got us tempted now by it. Is it? It must be hard to find a new part of Scotland to set a new crime book that isn't already like beset with amazing Scottish detectives and police people, because there are so many good ones.
I'm pretty sure that no one has set a crime series in this place. And it's someplace that I know very well. It's someplace that I used to go on holiday to, and is a lovely part of Scotland. And I don't think anyone set a book there. So that having said that, now I'll probably find one in Waterstones tomorrow. But I think it's going to be different.
That is a bold statement, because I can't think of many places in Scotland that are not covered by
You heard it here first, Kaz.
A fabulous. I mean, you claim St Andrews.
I have. I mean, I'm not the first to have written in St Andrews. T.F. Muir has a series, very successful series set there, and Tana Collins' books are around about St Andrews down to the East Neuk, kind of her Jim Carruthers, I think it is, Inspector Jim Carruthers series. If you haven't read Tana's books, honestly, I recommend it. I love her writing. Um, so her Inspector Jim Carruthers series is just lovely. And I think there's someone else as well. I'm sure I saw something about a book coming out set in St Andrews, a crime book, but I've now forgotten who it was that's written it. But so yeah, it's quite a small town, and I really like setting the books there. But I honestly am running out of places to leave bodies
I was
because
going to say, if it's so small a town, it must be difficult,
yeah,
especially when you're like 10 or 11 books in. And
yes,
keeping innovative crimes, because you obviously can't have, it can't be like Midsummer. Do you know what I mean? You can't have like a death count that's, like American city.
I have. I've thought about slightly more uh, dramatic crimes. The problem is anything like terrorism, Claire wouldn't get anywhere near. I thought about kind of extortion, and I thought, well, I put something into ground glass into baby food or something like that. No babies were harmed. Um, and then I thought, no, again, Claire, that they would bring in someone because this is really serious. So, I mean, all crime's serious, but that's pretty serious. So I kind of shrunk from that. And sometimes I think it would be nice if it was a bigger, grittier city, but then the series would be different. And that's one of the things that I had to decide when I was coming up with a new series. I wanted a different location. There's no place quite like St Andrews in Scotland. There's one or two pretty towns, but I had to decide, was I going to go urban or was I going to go rural? And I'm not going to say. But have another drink of water to distract you.
That's just mean. Isn't St Andrews kind of like a combo of that anyway? So it's like an urban, like little city, but it is kind of rural.
I don't know if I would call it urban. The population's not that big. The town is not that big. I'm trying to think if there's some place that I know in England that I could compare it with.
It's been a long time since I've been to St Andrews, if I'm honest. I go there most often in your books.
There's not really, there's not a lot of social housing. There is some, but there's not a huge amount. So you don't have sprawling housing schemes. Any housing estates that are built tend to be the expensive ones, which was the theme behind Watch Them Fall. So it's I wouldn't exactly call it semi-rural, but it's getting there. And I don't think I would call it urban. I don't think it's big enough. The university owns a lot of the town, and a lot of the really lovely buildings are owned by the university as well. But it's got a lot of potential because, of course, there are golfers coming in. It's one of the most famous golf courses in the world, the Old Course. Then you've got tourists, holidaymakers, academics, researchers, students, and then the locals who have to fight their way through all of these people when they're just wanting to go down the road to the shops. So there's a lot of potential people-wise. It's just not very big.
Yeah, I was going to say you got some potential with like the academics and stuff, haven't you, to do something interesting? with a crime.
Although the university were a bit sniffy about being included in a book, so I very rarely mention them. I have had students in plots, and I think I've had a professor be interviewed, but the university actually wanted to see the proof of the book before it went to print, before they would approve being included in it. And I just thought, nah, I'm not going to, no, absolute nonsense. So I think Tana Collins, to come back to her, she's got quite a neat way of dealing with it. She's created a university with a different name. I think she's called it the University of East Fife or something like that. So she can do what she likes with it, which is quite a smart idea. So she's used the location, but she's made up a lot of her own things. And I do that with hotels and cafes and restaurants as well. I just haven't done it with the university.
I think Ellie does something like that with the Ruth and Nelson books. It's basically like UEA in Norwich, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
where Ruth teaches,
so, yeah.
but it's not called that. It's got like a different name entirely. Like she's made up her own university.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember what she calls it, but it's not UEA, but it obviously kind of probably is UEA. I think that
it's a tricky balance in deciding whether to use real places or not. I did ask the Old Course Hotel. They wanted to be in a book, yes please, but they didn't want any crimes or anything like that to take place on the premises. They didn't want anyone who was on the premises involved in crime or anything like that. And I thought, well, that does not leave me very much. So I made up my own hotel. I use real places as far as I can, but no, I'm not going to pander to that. Be in the book or don't be in the book.
I mean, really, you'd think as well that you'd be pro being in a book because people love to go and see where things happen in books.
Yes. If you rank and ask them, they'd say yes.
Yeah. I'd like to do a Marion Todd like walking tour of St Andrews. I'd like to go and see where all your like things happened.
There is a lovely lady called Susan who does sort of book tour things, and I have promised to give her the locations in Watch Them Fall, but I just haven't had the time to kind of go through the book and see all the different places that Claire goes. So, but it is quite a small town, and I am running out of places for things to happen. So,
could she send out? So you were like talking about these little villages and stuff. Could Claire be almost dispatched out to one of those to help?
Yes, yeah, and I do move her about a bit for the sake of variety. So the one I've just written. She's down interviewing people in Kingsbarns, which is a village about 7 or 8 miles south of St Andrews. Lovely, lovely place. And it's got a nice beach. And where else has she gone? She always has to go over to Dundee across the River Tay if there's a post-mortem or if people have to identify a body, that would be taken to Dundee. And the big teaching hospital is there as well. So she goes there quite a lot. She always manages to get a parking space, which I never do. But I suppose that's the benefit of being a police officer. So yes, it is. It's necessary to expand out. The only problem as well is that St Andrews sits on the coast, and there's only one road goes kind of northwest of the town. The coast, the water's on the east. So to go sort of north, you go northwest on one road, and to go south, there's several roads that run parallel down towards the East Neuk, and that's pretty much all you can do. So I kind of sometimes I think I've backed myself into a corner by choosing St Andrews, but then it's a fun place to write about.
It is, and like you said, a very unique place. So it is like, for all the challenges, it brings a lot of like good things as well.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's nice to write about a lovely place. Sometimes I'll read novels and the setting can be a bit gritty, and a bit dark and creepy and all the rest of it. I wouldn't say I do that very much in my books. I tend to make the most of the lovely surroundings. Sometimes I'll use a forest, but forests are lovely, and I try not to make it too creepy. So yeah, I take advantage of it. The one thing I haven't done so far is to use any of the ruins. So there's a kind of ruined cathedral and castle and things like that, and I need to go around them again and just have a good look and think where the potential is. And there's cliffs as well, so can pitch somebody into the sea, down onto the jagged rocks below. But then they get washed out to sea, and that makes it difficult as well. So yeah, I would say if you're going to set a crime novel somewhere, don't choose somewhere that's on the coast, because immediately you've got one whole side where people can't escape unless they go off in boats. And I think I've done that twice, and I've not done it again. So maybe it's time. Although I have got a body in the harbour in this one. So,
You have, yeah, that's true. You've got, I mean, there's quite a lot of locations in this one as well, because there's a march sort of mentioned throughout again. I don't think I'm giving away a spoiler saying there's a march.
No, there's going to be a protest march.
Yeah, because she talks about it early on.
She does.
And that's how it got quite a route. They talk about the route, don't they?
Yes,
yes.
Book, so. I sort of, when I'm writing Claire, I play detective, really. I think, right, okay, if I was put in charge of policing this protest march, what would I do? What would I have to do? So I thought, right, the buses will go along the West Sands, which is at the start of the march. They can park there because there's lots of room. And then you'll corral the marchers in. They'll come up this way and they'll go around that way and all the rest of it. And I put them up North Street because that's away from shops and things like that. And on a Saturday, the streets are really busy with people out shopping and things like that. And so I very much do it as Claire, as a detective, thinking, right, how do we have to, how will we work this out? So it's quite fun playing detective. And well, not that was a detective thing, that was more a kind of management thing. But I quite enjoy thinking, what would I do if this was my job? How would I manage it? So.
And as much as you say you use the beautiful locations and don't go too gritty and dark, you have done some quite gruesome things in your books. There's some out there things. I think the first one, didn't you run someone over and then go back over them?
Yeah, well, you want to make sure, don't you? You don't want to leave them alive. I like that one because I felt it was a hands-off crime. And if I was going to kill someone, I don't think I could. You'd be relieved to know, I don't think I could manually strangle them because I'd be looking at their face. And I don't think I would manage to do that. I'd probably go, no, I'm sorry. Whereas if it was in a car, especially a big car, then I could gadunk over them and back over them again. That would be okay because I've not actually touched them. So that's quite hands-off. The worst one I did, and I sort of shudder when I think about it, was where someone's throat was cut. They were in their car and the person behind them grabbed their hair, pulled them back and drew a knife across their throat. And that was a messy scene. But I tend not to do anything too messy. But yeah, I mean, I am killing people, so it's kind of not very nice. But I try not to be too gruesome. I would never write torture. I can guarantee you there will never be torture. There will never be animal cruelty because I can't read it and I don't want to write it. So when I'm killing people, quite a lot of the time I try and not get my hands dirty. But that was a grisly one.
Yeah, even a minor injury to animals is well treated, isn't it?
Oh God, no, never. I have had Benji injured, and that's the one that resulted in Claire smacking someone in the mouth, and I think that's fully justified. I don't think there's a jury in the land would convict her for that. So yeah, no. I think was it Barry G.D. Kirk that made the mistake of killing an animal in one of his books, and he got such a roasting for it. He said he'll never do it again.
I mean, it is interesting when you hear about it because Mike Craven says he has to be really careful now because people were writing to him.
Did he kill a cat?
I don't think he killed anyone. It was more people were concerned about like Washington's dog because he was leaving. And so now he has to be really specific about him being dropped off with a neighbour. And
honestly, just people are less bothered about children than they are about dogs.
People are deeply worried about fictional animals. It's funny.
I know. I can tell you this: Benji will outlive Claire. Not that I'm planning to kill Claire. I'm just trying to say that Benji will never die. Excellent. If anybody wants to see what Benji's been up to, there's a Benji behavior generator on my website where you can press a button and it tells you what Benji has done, what his latest exploits are. So at mariontodd.com, you can have a look at the Benji page.
That is wonderful.
It was good fun to do. Lovely Charlotte Duckworth built the website for me, and I said to her, I really want to do this, Charlotte. Do you think it's possible? And so she wrote the code for it, and it's great fun.
Is it very similar to real dogs? Because like my parents' dog does all sorts of crazy things.
Usually it involves eating things that you shouldn't eat, tearing things apart, and most of it has come from our dog, who when he came to live with me was challenging, I think is the polite word, and it has taken many, many years to sort of stop him doing things. But now he does tear he's a terrier, so he tears his own toys to bits and shakes them and all the rest of it. We've gone through, I don't know how many frisbees, and stuffed dinosaur toys as well seems to be his favourite. He's been trying to destroy a pink plastic carrot. So far, it has resisted his efforts, but I don't give it much longer. So Benji, there's one of the books, I think it's the fourth one, What They Knew. Claire takes Benji to dog training, and pretty much everything that happened at the dog training happened to me when I took our dog to dog training. It was absolute misery. I lasted 4 weeks, and then I thought, I'm not coming back. I can't stand it. I had actually learned quite a lot from the trainer, so I just did it by myself. But the poor dog just could not cope with the presence of all these other dogs, and he was jumping and straining and barking, and it was exhausting. So, never again, never again.
Sharon Birch said she's sorry she's late, but she's here.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much for tuning in.
You've got a lot of authors who've randomly come and said hello.
I've got what, sorry?
I said you've got a couple of authors who've come and said hello to you today.
All right. Yeah. That's nice. Thank you.
Tell us what you've read recently and enjoyed.
Okay. Do you mind if I get my phone out? Because this is where it's all... at the moment in the car, I always have an audiobook on the go. And I have gone right back to the start, and I am listening to L.J. Ross's Holy Island and really enjoying the narration of that, the first in her series. I listened to The Marriage by K.L. Slater, and then, because I'm always behind the curve, S.J. Watson Before I Go to Sleep, which I really, I thought it was a great conceit. Claire Douglas, The Wrong Sister. Kia Abdullah, What Happens in the Dark. These are all fantastic reads. And then I went back and listened to, this is all audiobooks, Peter May's The Lewis Trilogy. Absolutely loved it. Really loved it. I've got a couple of proofs waiting to be read. One is G.R. Halliday's book, and I don't have it to hand, or I would hold it up to the camera. And the other is J.M. Simpson, Jo Simpson's next in her Mountain Rescue series. And there's another one that's just arrived, and it's Michael Wood's next book as well. So I'm stuffed with proofs to read at the moment. That's what I've been up to.
Holy Island's a good read.
Oh, I'm loving it. And I really like the narration.
There's a cracking follow-up to the Lewis trilogy as well. There's one he
Yeah,
wrote years later that's really
yes,
good.
yes. I haven't got round to that yet. I try very hard not to read more than one book from the same author because I want to read as widely as I can. But I couldn't resist the Lewis ones. I just wanted them all. It was just, and they were so beautifully narrated. The Gaelic pronunciation was just stunning. I had a really, I used to narrate my audiobooks and I stopped at book 6 and got a professional in, thank goodness, to do it. She makes a fabulous job. And I was sort of getting to the end of thinking I don't want to do this anymore because it is very hard work and it's not in my skill set. The thing that did it for me was I was narrating live on the recording, and I never bothered reading the book beforehand because I'd been through it lots of times. I knew it very well. And I found myself reading out loud into the microphone. He spoke with a faint Hebridean accent. And I thought, what's that like? And I suddenly had to think, my son has a friend who was born in Stornoway on the Isle of Lewis, which is in the Outer Hebrides. And I sort of channeled her voice very quickly into my head and did my best. And I thought, I need to stop this now because I'm getting myself tied in knots. And now that I have a professional, the first thing I did was I had someone who had been brought up in Poland but had moved to Scotland and picked up a Dundee accent. So a bit of Polish, a bit of Dundee. And I said to her, can you do that? She said, I can't wait to do that. That sounds good fun. And then there was somebody from South Shields in the previous book. And so I'm having fun with people now. There's somebody French in Watch Them Fall. There's a couple of French people.
Oh yes, there is. Yeah.
One of them only says no. But then I think so I've not heard the narration yet for Watch Them Fall because it's not out yet. But I can't wait to hear it. I'm really excited.
That must be good. I'm always amazed when people can do different accents.
I know.
Like I can never do it. It's not.
When I went to the Edinburgh Festival, I always go to the festival in the summer for 3 or 4 days. And the first show we went to last year, was Lewis MacLean, who is an impressionist. Well, when I say he's an impressionist, he's sort of on private eye videos. He does a cracking Donald Trump, but he does so many other voices as well, a bit like Dead Ringers on the radio, if you ever listen to that. And he's just incredibly talented. And I had tears rolling down my cheeks at his voices that he was doing. And I think, how do people do that? And different accents and things as well. I'd love to be able to do all the different accents in the UK, but no, it's not something I'm good at.
I can do my accent and that's it.
Yeah, me too. I could probably. So I grew up in Dundee, and if I'm pushed, I can sort of slip back into being quite Dundonian. But my mother was very keen that I did not have a really thick accent, and so she sort of bullied me out of it. So I used to have one voice when I was speaking to my friends, one accent, and then when I came home, I would posh it up a bit. So, but that's
we
it.
do get accents from your parents a little bit, don't you? Or you're meant to. My parents don't overly have accents.
I've had people say to me that they can't tell where I come from, and my mother would love that because she didn't like the Dundee accent. But I think you can. One of the things I get picked up on by friends is saying sandwiches as though it's got a G in it, and I've always said I'm going to make a sandwich, and like somebody said to me, no, it's not. It's sandwich. I think nobody says sandwich. I say sandwich. So there's a very funny clip of on the Graham Norton show of Benedict Cumberbatch trying to say penguin. He'd narrated a wildlife documentary, and they played all the bits of him. It's worth looking up, trying to say the word penguin and it comes out like penguins, and it just gets worse and worse as it goes on. So
You've been asked if you're going to any book events this year.
yes, I will be at Harrogate in July, as usual. Hopefully see you there, Kaz.
Woohoo.
And I will be at Bloody Scotland in September, and I'm going to be at one or two other book festivals as well. There's one going to be in Stonehaven in May that I'm going to, Heart of Stone. There's another one in, oh gosh, I've forgotten the name of the place at the moment. It's on Loch Lomond, and I can't remember when that is. And there's one or two others I might be going to, but I've not sort of committed to them yet. But nothing, I think the next one that's coming up is Heart of Stone in Stonehaven, which is on the northeast coast of Scotland. And then
Yeah, I was gonna
Harrogate in
ask
July.
Apparently, you've been told to go to Cromarty.
Oh, Cromarty. Oh, Cromarty's a lovely place. Lovely. I've never been invited to Cromarty, but I should just go up and enjoy, because it looks a lovely, lovely place. Really nice part of the world.
Just invite yourself.
I could do that, couldn't I? Yes.
More people like you should be invited.
I'm actually going to Shetland. I haven't got everything booked yet, but I'm going to Shetland at some point. And it's not when Shetland Noir is on, but I think I'm going to try and go when the folk festival's on, because I think that'll be good fun. When I went to the Outer Hebrides a few years ago, we happened to land lucky with a couple of the places that we stayed. One night there was a thing called a Ceilidh bus, which is the best thing ever. It's where you have a couple of musicians who they get up a bus and people pay for a seat on the bus, and they go around all the different pubs on the island, and they get settled in, and they play some music for about half an hour or an hour, and everybody has lots to drink, and then they pile back into the bus and they go off to the next pub and they repeat this. And we had that, and then there was another pub we went to where there was people who'd come for a festival, but they just got up and played some impromptu music. And so that's a lovely thing about these places in Scotland. You can suddenly come on lots of folk music happening. So that's the plan.
That sounds amazing.
It is good.
You're going to tempt us all up to Scotland to come and try all these things.
Oh, you have to. Yes, definitely. Definitely. If you can come when there's a music festival on, then it's just great fun.
I do love a music festival.
Me too. The folk festivals are great because people just carry around violins and the drummy things, and accordions and stuff like that. And then just suddenly you'll be in a pub and somebody will take it out and start playing. It's great fun.
Sounds good. Remind people, we've got 2 minutes left, what they're going to go away and buy if they haven't already done so.
I can offer you today this book. Look at that cover. Isn't it a stunner? And because it is about housing, and the house that's burgled is a very posh house. It's called Watch Them Fall. It's available in paperback, in ebook, and early in April, the audiobook will be available as well. And it's book 10 in the Detective Claire Mackay crime series. And I will love you all if you buy a copy.
And you buy all 10 would be even better.
Oh, even better. And if you have time to do a review on Amazon, that would be the best thing of all, because that really helps.
They are best kind of read in order as well, aren't they? You can read them out of order,
yeah.
it is good because you get to follow the adventures of Claire.
Yeah, you do.
And everyone.
It's definitely, if you can possibly start with See Them Run, that's the first book, even if the others aren't necessarily in sequence, because then you find out how Claire acquires a dog in See Them Run. But yeah, if you can go from books 1 to 10, that'd be lovely too.
I'm pretty sure I've done most of books 1 to 10. I'm sure
there's one done. Well, considering the number of people you interview and the number of books you must have to read, that's amazing.
But I think I was reading yours before the interviews even started.
Okay, well, thank you.
I just get the joy of having like an excuse to read them now.
Good. Well, I hope you'll enjoy book 11 when it comes out next year.
I'm sure I will, and I'm excited for the new series as well. How good is that going to be?
Well, I hope, at the moment it's not very good, but I hope it will get better.
It'll be superb. And then all that's left to say is thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I can't believe that's an hour. Thanks so much, Kaz. It's been good fun. And thank you to everybody that's tuned in or that's watching it later on. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Oh yeah, Patsy said she was catching up, didn't she?
She did.